Mr. Speaker, sir, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Honorable Members of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise today to deliver my brief response in support of the revised 2021-2022 national budget. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank the Honorable Minister for Economy for delivering a masterpiece of a budget that balances the limited resources that we have amongst the numerous competing demands at Fiji's most difficult time. I congratulate the Honorable Minister for Economy for such a meticulously crafted masterpiece of budget that captured and alluded to the following key points that we cannot be ignorant towards. One, our limited resources. Two, that the Fijian economy's numerous competing demands. And three, that we are faced with the most challenging times in our country's history. Mr. Speaker, amongst these difficult times, delivering a budget that best addresses the concerns of all the constituents in the society is indeed a hallmark of an articulate, intelligent, and visionary economy minister. Mr. Speaker, the budget attempts to assist, stimulate the economy, raise wages of low-wage earners, cushion the impact of rising cost of living of households, widen study choices of Year 13 students by providing increased financing for tertiary education, recognizing hardworking civil servants, protection of wages and salaries of civil servants, opportunities for house ownership for first home buyers, leverage to affected households and aged people in the Northern Division, medical care to Fijians who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it by traveling to hospitals outside Fiji. These are some of the key deliverables, amongst others, in this revised 2021-2022 national budget. Mr. Speaker, noting the above, if you were given a multiple choice question to describe the budget with options as A, growth and rescue package, B, social package to address low-paid workers and households, C, a distribution package, D, all of the above, we would clearly opt to say it's all of the above. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank the Minister of Economy for his continuous support to our agriculture sector. The sector's output has been steadily increasing over the last decade, despite several external shocks, particularly that of cyclones. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, commentators and particularly members of the opposition are not able to understand the state of Fiji's agriculture sector. I don't know what data they are referring to or who does the analysis for them. Mr. Speaker, currently, as I speak, the agriculture sector is valued at approximately $1.5 billion. Overall, agriculture's contribution to GDP in 2021 stood at 8.1%. If we remove the sugar sector's contribution to GDP of 1.1%, then the non-sugar agriculture sector contributes to 7% of the overall GDP. Mr. Speaker, numerous times in this Parliament, I had explained that it will be erroneous to say that 5 decades ago, agriculture's contribution to GDP was 21%, or 20%, or over 20%, and now it has gone down to 8%, and therefore agriculture is declining. No. Agricultural output is not declining. Agricultural output has increased over time. But what has happened is because non-agricultural sector, some of those which were not existent at that particular point in time, has now added on or come into being or has been expanding. For example, tourism, manufacturing, service sector, industrial sector. All these sectors now have expanded over time, and naturally, the rate of growth of these sectors have been higher than the rate of growth, the gradient, the slope. Therefore, the share of agriculture's contribution in the overall GDP has declined. The share, the ratio, the percent. But agriculture, the volume of output, has not declined. At the moment, it is $1.5 billion. It's not a small feat for a small developing country like Fiji. Mr. Speaker, the journey to this level of output has not been easy. Mr. Speaker, the entire ministry, led by the PS and myself, have been on the ground talking to all the stakeholders of agriculture, getting them to mobilize and expand production. Mr. Speaker, landowners, we have discussed with the landowners to fully utilize their land, basically. And any unutilized land to allow it to be leased and to be put under productive use. Mr. Speaker, late 1980s and early 1990s, former politicians, including some on the opposition now, Nico Nawaikula and them, Mr. Speaker, misguided and misinformed the landowners that don't renew your leases, you can make windfall gains by using it yourself. And we'll help you and guide you. Mr. Speaker, the poor landowners listened to them and decided not to renew a large number of leases. If you travel towards Vainikoro, Mr. Speaker, you'll see large tracts of land lying idle because the leases were not renewed. Mr. Speaker, when the leases were not renewed, then the landowners were looking for them. They were abandoned. The landowners were looking for them for guidance how to utilize this on a commercial basis, but they were nowhere to be seen, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these former politicians have done gross injustice to the landowners because lying idle land is not providing any return or any benefit to anyone. The landowners have lost income, a steady sort of rental income. The members of the Matangali are also have lost income, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so we are going around talking to the landowners to utilize the land, put it into productive use, Mr. Speaker. And as I've said numerous times, that unutilized land which does not provide any returns is valueless. It has no value. Unless a particular resource, whether it's land or house, if it doesn't generate return, a positive return, then its value is zero. Any resource, the value is based on how much return it can generate. Mr. Speaker, we've been talking to farmers. We've been talking to farmers so that to get them to put full attention, full commitment to the farms that they have and treat it as a business, Mr. Speaker. We've been telling them they must save. Research that has been done demonstrates that unfortunately farm households in the rural areas do not save much. There are several reasons for it, Mr. Speaker. And that is a critical issue that needs to be dealt with, because when there's an external shock, the first call is their own savings, and then government comes in to support them and get them out of the shock. So, Mr. Speaker, it's very important that we, going forward, we work hard to ensure the rural households understand the importance of saving. Also, Mr. Speaker, with the savings, we are saying that then you can get into investment. One of the basic prerequisites of creating surplus in any business, whether it's agricultural entrepreneurship or otherwise, is that you must save, and part of it you must invest. Without investment, there can't be any growth. So we're convincing them. Mr. Speaker, we're also talking to them not to shy away from new technologies, whether it's new breeds of livestock, whether it's new varieties of crop, whether it's new machinery. And we can see now them responding to this call, Mr. Speaker. We have seen that they are coming forward to adopt new varieties, high-yielding, pest-resistant varieties of crop, willing to renew and get in new breeders to change their stock herd. These breeds are high-yielding, Speaker, adaptable to tropical climate. We're also talking to them, Mr. Speaker, that look at ways of reducing cost, increasing efficiency and productivity. No country who has got a developed agriculture sector has developed without investing on increased efficiency, cost and technical efficiency, as well as raising productivity. And it's very critical, Mr. Speaker. My own research, when I was in USP, demonstrated declining productivity in Pacific Islands agriculture sector, and I did quite about 7 or 8 countries agricultural panel data time series data and cross-sectional data, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are also talking to laborers in the rural areas to get them, convince them to engage in full-time agricultural activities, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are also talking to financial institutions, particularly our own development bank, to give this financial support so that these farmers can then tap into those pool of finance that they hold into and make productive investment. Mr. Speaker, say, I've said it in this House, when the national output increases, in this case agricultural output increases, then this surplus created by increased production will benefit all those who are engaged in this sector. And one of the beauty about agriculture sector is that it will allow a lot of people to be engaged, particularly in the rural interior maritime, which is quite peculiar about agriculture rather than manufacturing, which tend to center around the core, the urban area. So it allows the government to fulfill its mandate of redistributing income. So the beauty about it is that the more and more people are involved in agriculture sector, as a surplus is created, it is then distributed to all these people who are involved. The landowners will get increased rent. The farmers will get, or farm households will get increased income. The laborers will get increased wages. The financial sector will get increased interest income. Mr. Speaker said, while doing that, we then also looked at how we could give these farmers leverage. This year, we announced 9 programs to support the farmers getting into commercial agriculture. Irrigation sets, we provided 150 farmers with full irrigation kit, so that we can extend the production into drought period. Nursery sets and hydroponic sets as part of the protected agriculture, so that we can have production under protected environment. Fencing material, so that we can migrate small farmers having 10, 20, 30 livestock holding into medium-sized farm or larger farms, Mr. Speaker said. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker said, this year we provided fencing material to 633 farmers, 233 beef cattle farmers, 400 goat and sheep farmers, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said, if all these farmers are successful as a commercial farmer, our abattoir that we have here can run 5 days a week, Mr. Speaker. So at the moment, it is running at 2 days a week, 3 days a week, because we don't have enough animals coming there for slaughtering. Mr. Speaker said we need to get into and expand our livestock sector, because we have got a strategic advantage in that. $48 million every year is spent on importing sheep meat into the country, Mr. Speaker said, while we have got the strategic advantage in producing sheep meat or its close substitute goat meat, Mr. Speaker said. We're also importing, Mr. Speaker said, beef cattle, beef meat, which we can raise it in Fiji. Mr. Speaker said we also provided land clearing support to 20 Matagalis and 33 individual farmers in the settlements to bring in new land under production. Bulldozers to clear the land, tractor to prepare the land, planting material to expand the production into new areas, Mr. Speaker said. Mr. Speaker said we've also provided substantial amount of funding allocation for farmers to procure small equipment on a 30-70 contribution. The Speaker said we also started 2 years ago, establishment of orchards for fruits. Hotels are using fruit pulp to make smoothies, and they're importing. We are saying that, look, we need to get these hotels to buy from local, from within. And for that, we need to set up the ground for production and supply. Mr. Speaker said we have got a dedicated program to support women engaged in agriculture. So, Mr. Speaker said we are very fortunate to see that with this support, agricultural production and expansion at the ground level has expanded rapidly. With that, Mr. Speaker said, agriculture, after feeding the entire nation, we need to get the surplus out so that we can attract foreign or bring foreign currency into the country. Mr. Speaker said, for the first time ever in 2020, non-sugar agricultural exports surpassed $100 million mark, for the first time ever. And in the same year, it also surpassed sugar exports. In 2020, sugar exports was $101 million, and non-sugar agriculture exports were $106 million. Mr. Speaker, say 2021, last year, there was a 13% growth in agricultural exports from $106 million to $121 million, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our vision is in 9 years' time, 10 years from last year I had said it, from 9 years' time from today, we want agriculture to be a $2 billion industry. The surplus that we exported last year, $121 million, to raise to $500 million in terms of export, Mr. Speaker. That's where we want to take agriculture to, Mr. Speaker. And for that, this is the strategy that I outlined. We need to mobilize the farmers, the landowners, the households, the laborers, the exporters, the middlemen, the processors, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we can do it if you all get together, rather than the other side going around on the ground saying that land is insecure, they'll take away your land, don't renew the leases, etc. Mr. Speaker, this mischief making must stop, Mr. Speaker. They've done enough damage to the country following 1987. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Minister of Economy for providing an additional $350,000 under the successful entrepreneurs in livestock farming, which will be utilized immediately once the budget is passed. We will be advertising to provide an additional support to the additional livestock farmers who have been left out from this earlier round of assistance, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I now wish to take this opportunity to invite good, productive, and efficient farmers engaged in the sugar sector to come and undertake commercial farming in the non-sugar agriculture sector, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I said, I want the productive, efficient, committed, full-time farmers who want to treat agriculture as a business to come forward and engage in non-sugar agriculture, Mr. Speaker. There are others who are not very efficient, pastime, part-time, laser farmers. They can opt to pick up the support provided by the Minister for Economy to get the residential lease, and the land can be utilized by the able-bodied, those who want to do full-time farming, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to support them to give the initial leverage, but they will need to treat agriculture as a business, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must say, and I must admit, we have full grasp of the entire supply chain. We have identified the critical binding constraints, and we are addressing these constraints progressively, bit by bit. I wish to thank all the stakeholders for their contribution in raising agricultural output and export, our landowners, the exporters, farmers, and I must say, the job is not finished yet. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I again convey my congratulatory message to the Minister of Economy and his team, and I want to thank you for allowing me an opportunity to address this August Parliament on the revised 2021-22 national budget. Mr. Speaker, I urge the members on the other side to join us all in supporting this budget. If they don't do this, they're denying support to the people on the ground, the rank and file, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Manaka and Dhanyavad.